She was told her entire life that she was useless. See how Nancy Hiller turned humiliation into motivation and became one of the top woodworkers in the country.
And then, ever think about making a left turn in your life? See what happens when a world-renowned neurosurgeon steps out of the OR and slides behind the wheel of a race car, and the fascinating reason he decided to give it a try.
And the unmotivated college dropout who enlisted in the Army and then enlisted in life, hitting the books with a big, bold goal. If you think it's too late for you, stick around because Growing Bolder is rebranding aging.
The moral of the story is really follow your heart.
Live your life to the fullest. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it.
So get out there, take some chances.
Find something you love and make it your lifestyle.
Make no mistake about it, it's a revolution.
Hi everyone, I'm Mark Middleton. This of course is Bill Schaefer and this is Growing Bolder. You know, we all want more out of life, but what is it that inspires those who actually make a big change in their lives?
We know that there are lots of reasons, and most of them you could guess, but some can be kind of unusual too. Sometimes they can come from some painful places, and that brings us to the story of Nancy Hiller.
Imagine, even at a very young age, feeling like a disappointment to everyone.
I was never the popular kid in our family. My sister was. I wasn't the cute one. I wasn't the one who was easy to get along with.
As she got older, things only got worse.
I would always be the one who was not popular. I would be the one standing against the wall at parties.
But for Nancy Hiller, nothing hurt worse than when she was rejected by a member of her family.
My stepfather, with whom I had a very contentious relationship, would stop by almost every day and insult whatever I was doing. And his usual insult was, "Come on, Nance, you're useless."
Called useless by her own stepfather. Well, there are only two ways to deal with that. You either accept it or you fight back. Nancy chose to fight.
I would spite him by going down to the local vocational college and checking out what they had.
What they had was a woodworking class, motivated by spite. She thought this is just the thing to prove him wrong, but could she?
You looked around the room, and how many women were there?
There were no women. I was the only woman in that class.
And as if that wasn't discouraging enough, things even got worse when she picked up a saw.
The first day, I almost quit the course because I realized I didn't even know how to cut a straight line.
What if her stepfather was right, she thought? What if she was useless?
And I was so frustrated that I just started crying and I had to hide behind my workbench. I mean, I didn't have to hide, I was just so embarrassed. And so I was like, I don't think I can do this. But then I thought, if I don't see this through, I'm going to have to admit defeat to my stepfather. And that was not going to happen.
So she threw herself into her work, and little by little she got better and better until she became one of the best, creating highly customized pieces admired for both their design and craftsmanship.
I mean, I think we all need to really challenge ourselves in how we think of what is beautiful and what appeals to us.
Nancy Hiller proved her stepfather wrong. She settled into a career as a cabinet maker, but that's not the end of her story. Working with wood is a slow and intricate process, requiring hours alone with your project, your tools, and your thoughts.
Because of that monotony, and because I have a sort of overactive brain some of the time, which tends to become neurotically focused on especially bad things that people say to me, or if they make some remark about how women shouldn't be in that field or whatever, I just Basically, while I am working, I'm thinking about, here are the 50 responses that I would like to make to that person. And that's how I got into writing, because I'm not one of those people who, like, off the cuff, come up with the perfect response to an insult.
It was really her own form of therapy, but she sent those writings into woodworking magazines, and before long, those columns made her one of the leading voices in the industry. Somehow, the little girl who was such a disappointment was now internationally renowned for her skills as a woodworker, a columnist, and as an author who's published multiple books. Things have turned out pretty well for the little girl that just didn't fit in.
I feel very blessed. It is ironic, though. I constantly have people thinking, yeah, well, that's easy for you because you get to do this. And I'm like, oh, you think this just fell in my lap? No. I mean, it's been years of, lying in bed in the middle of the night thinking, how am I going to pay the mortgage next month? And trying to be creative and come up with ways of doing what I have to do that will be rewarding to me as well. So not just paying the bills, but satisfying my intellect or doing the kind of work that I think is beautiful. And it means you have to work longer hours and you have to really stretch yourself, and sometimes you have to do stuff that's not fun or that's physically arduous and it's dirty and it's sweaty, but so what? I mean, if you get that kind of reward at the end of the day and you can look back over a body of work and think, I made that, it's very satisfying.
So Nancy Hiller wasn't so useless after all.
Yes, really, my whole life has been about speaking back to my stepfather.
Well, isn't it interesting how someone who always felt that they struggled to have something to say in expressing themselves not only had plenty to talk about in the story, but now writes articles and books to share her thoughts with people?
Yeah, it really is powerful stuff. She's now using her voice to push for both integrity and equality. Someone who was convinced she was useless, now making a really big difference because she started growing bolder. Our colleague Wendy Chioji pretty much defines growing bolder. Her life has become one big growing bolder adventure after another. In fact, she recently spent a month on a 66-foot boat sailing from Argentina to Antarctica, living out her mantra of saying yes to opportunity. Our videographer and production whiz Michael Nannis and his wife Debbie are also growing bolder adventurers. One bucket list trip took them to Australia and New Zealand, which included diving on the Great Barrier Reef. They documented it all in a series of video blogs for Growing Bolder. The world's a big place, folks. What are you waiting for? So, how are you growing bolder? We'd like to share your story. More information is available at growingbolder.com/TV, where you'll learn more about the people and the places we featured on this program and how we might feature you in an upcoming episode of Growing Bolder. You've probably heard us talk about Dr. Robert Masson because he's Growing Bolder's medical director and he's one of the world's top spine surgeons. He's also a guy who is relentless in his desire to challenge himself. Not surprisingly, he became interested in racing when his teenage son Kyle took up the sport.
Yes, but was Dad really interested enough to get behind the wheel? We had to go check this out and quickly realized it was one of the biggest stories in motorsports. And we're not the only ones who think so.
The last time we caught up with Dr. Robert Masson, world-renowned neurosurgeon and medical director of Team Growing Bolder, he was climbing to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro not long after surgeries on his knee, his neck, and his shoulder. He was climbing to inspire his patients about the possibility of extreme recovery, to raise money for cancer survivors, to honor his father who died of cancer, to celebrate his sister, a cancer survivor, and to scratch an itch he's always had, the desire to challenge himself in every way possible. Robert now has a new challenge. One of the most compelling stories in motorsports is unfolding at Sebring International Raceway as Masson makes his IMSA racing debut in one of the world's premier road racing events.
It's a little overwhelming, but I'm having a great time.
The But that's only one half of this story, because one of Dr. Massan's competitors in the IMSA Prototype Challenge presented by Mazda is his 19-year-old son, Kyle.
To go through the experience together it's really awesome as a father and son. I mean, there aren't many father and sons out here doing this, so it's a lot of fun.
Kyle was a rookie last year after finally talking his parents into letting him attend racing school.
Kyle has a passion for racing. He's always had it, and to some extent I felt a little guilty because my wife and I really kept him from chasing it younger, and he's always wanted to do it. But once we were believers, we went all in, and I chaperoned him to racing school, and ultimately he proved to me how safe and how meticulous and how basically technical this sport is.
Robert was immediately drawn to racing's demand for precision, preparation, and performance, three things that make him one of the world's top minimally invasive spine surgeons.
You know, neurosurgery is dangerous, right? And racing is dangerous, but you manage risk, and you manage performance, and you manage opportunities. And I think there's a lot of people that really don't understand that racing isn't about being crazy, and it's not about being aggressively fast. It's about being meticulously fast, and it's very technical.
And he came to me one day and said, "Hey, listen, I want to give this a try." And I said, "Well, you know, it's big, right? At your age, it's a big thing to do. So just be prepared." And you know, he's handled it pretty well.
While Robert is making his racing debut, Kyle, in just his second season, has become one of motorsports' rising stars. He opened the year driving for the first time ever in the Rolex 24 at Daytona, where he and teammates James French, Patricio Award, and Nicolas Boulay dominated the Prototype Challenge class, finishing 22 laps ahead of the runner-up car in a flawless performance.
I've tried to win that race 12 times as a driver, and it's probably one of the toughest races in the world to win. To have that watch on your wrist is pretty impressive and pretty special. To have that in your resume to say you won the 24 Hours of Daytona, nobody can ever take that away from you.
Robert and Kyle both drive for Performance Tech Motorsports, a company founded by Brent O'Neill, a former racer who has found his passion helping develop the next generation of motorsports superstars.
I'd probably make a lot more money going to work for somebody else and doing what I do. But for me, there's a big satisfaction in life to watch the kids like Kyle start from nowhere, and we turn them into somebody that can win the 24 Hours of Daytona.
In a role reversal that both are enjoying, Kyle is now mentoring Robert on the racetrack, but credits his dad with providing the foundation for his success.
Every development path I've taken has been through his philosophy and his guidance, and he's basically the reason I'm doing so well and have been so successful so far in the sport, because I'm learning through his pathway.
In addition to the weekend's big event, the 12 Hours of Sebring, Kyle will compete in 2 Prototype Challenge races, taking on a field that includes his father.
What are the odds you beat the kid?
Zero. Absolutely zero, unless he goes into a wall, which I do not want.
As the cars line up and the drivers prepare to race, Denise Massan, Robert's wife and Kyle's mother, watches over both. Last year, she adjusted to having a son in racing.
I see he's very methodical, and he doesn't do any thing that is out of his scope of knowledge, so I'm pretty comfortable with it. But, you know, anytime there's a yellow or a caution, it definitely is a little stressful.
And this year, she's adjusting to also having a husband in racing.
He loves anything that's high intensity, so while I definitely worry a little extra now that I have 2 drivers on track, he loves a good challenge, so I'm happy for him.
Robert's IMSA racing debut is impressive. Another driver turned into him on the very first lap, spinning him out and putting him way behind the field. But he remained focused and, driving with precision, battled his way back, catching and passing numerous cars to finish 7th overall in both of his races.
You always want to do better, but my weekend goal wasn't to overachieve. It was to be solid and consistent and hit my best laps, which I did.
Meanwhile, Kyle was a dominating wire-to-wire winner of both races.
And your winner here today, sweeping the weekend in Sebring, Florida, wearing his Mazda hat onto the stage, your victor for Performance Tech driver, the number 18, Kyle Masson.
With his brothers and sister looking on, Kyle assumes what is becoming a familiar spot on the podium. His celebration, while splashy, is short-lived because his 2 victories in the Prototype Challenge are just the warm-up.
Yeah, the big one's tomorrow. I'm looking forward to the 12-hour. I'd love to go home 3 for 3 this weekend.
And the next day, he does just that. He and teammates James French and Patricio O'Ward win the 12 Hours of Sebring to go with their win in the 24 Hours of Daytona. At 19, Kyle Masson is undefeated on the year, including wins in 2 of the most prestigious races in motorsports, and he gives the credit to a teammate who just happens to be his father.
He's always an influence in everything I do. He's constantly pushing and making himself better and growing, and I have to live up to his expectations and standards, and to be able to do that, I have to be creative, think outside the box, come up with unique solutions, stay in school, be successful on the racetrack, and do extracurricular stuff like create the simulators. So being under his wing, it's just made me a completely better person than I could have ever imagined.
The simulators he refers to are part of a charity he's created, already raising over $20,000 to build and donate 2 racing simulators to the Arnold Palmer Hospital for Children.
They're in a position where they're not able to go out and play sports and be competitive like other kids are. So giving them something they can do in the hospital and to compete against each other, against the other hospitals and teams, I think it would be a lot of fun and something that would be eye-opening to them.
While his racing future seems unlimited, Kyle isn't taking anything for granted. Another lesson learned from his father.
I'm going to take the sport as far as I can, but I'm going to continue studying, going to school, and taking a normal career path simultaneously so that when it comes down to it, I have multiple options.
Robert plans on competing in the entire 13-race season at the top motorsports venues in North America, an opportunity to continue this journey with his son while indulging his appetite for challenge.
I'm really excited about it. I hope it continues to go well. It's scary. This is a very, very daring sport, but I'm really enjoying it.
With the Growing Boulder logo on the side of his car and the Growing Boulder ethos in his heart, Dr. Masson is excited about the many adventures still to come.
And Growing Boulder inspires that. I think it inspires the message of seize opportunity, take advantage of things as you move on in your life. There is no age limit to taking advantage of opportunity, and that's one of the things I love about being a part of the Growing Boulder team is we don't really stop because of preconceived notions of what time of life we're in, and I haven't stopped with this, and I don't intend to.
You know, I love that story because not only did he have the courage to try it once, he made the commitment, Mark, to race for the entire season. Even if he would have gotten out there and been horrible at it, it still would have been one of the highlights of his life for giving something totally new a try.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, but he was far from terrible at it. In fact, he won one race, finished on the podium multiple times, and was a close second overall in the Masters Championship. And Kyle was the talk of sports car racing in North America, winning an unprecedented 8 of 9 races. It was a unique shared experience for the Massons and a lesson for us all to find the courage to try new things.
The only way to hold on to your wealth is to hold on to your health. And it's very important as we get into our 50s and our 60s to understand that longevity and health care is over 70% lifestyle. So you could have all the money in the world and you could blow it in the healthcare system, and we don't want that. You want to do the things that you've dreamed about doing. So that's the first book I wrote, but I have a book that is in the editing phase that talks about living beyond 90, because the fastest growing segment of the US population is the 90 plus. Most of us, when we were working, in our 50s and 60s thought I'd retire at 62 and I'd be dead at 82, but that's not the situation. And so we have to plan to live well beyond 90, and the best way to plan and live an active lifestyle beyond 90 is to protect your health so you can have the wealth to live that active lifestyle.
You know, when you're young and starting out in life, it can be a struggle to figure out who you are and what you want to do. But what happens when you get a little older and you still really have no idea? Well, Growing Bolder tells you that it is never too late, and nobody proves it better than Eric Wilson.
Class members, today is your special day. In just a few moments, you will realize your dream of putting on your white coat for the first time.
At the age of 40, Eric Wilson had moved one step closer to his dream. He had just started medical school.
You ready for it?
No. And yes.
It's the last place his friends expected him to be, especially those in college with him his first time around.
I was very stubborn at that point in time. I kind of believed that no one had anything to teach me at all. And I probably viewed everything as the professor's fault. Like, oh, you don't get me, I know what I'm doing, which was apparently the totally wrong attitude and didn't take long to drop out.
Eric had an attitude problem. He bounced from job to job, never quite fitting in.
I did that for about 2-3 years, struggling, flopping around, realizing I wasn't going anywhere. And then I realized I needed a strong change, a very strong change.
He chose an interesting place to make that change.
The Army. The Army kind of doesn't give you any flexibility. I mean, boot camp probably breaks that down and you're going to do what you're told and develop some skills.
He learned the hard way that excuses were pointless. It's all about results.
It's tough, 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 tough. You know, there's no points, no softness, no weakness. If someone's got a problem, you need to pick it up and keep going.
When an Army chaplain needed an assistant, Wilson volunteered, and that changed everything. His me against the world attitude didn't work anymore. As a chaplain's assistant, he had to listen and see things from the perspective of others, and that led to a revelation.
Now, what I realized most of the time, it's not the world that's not working, it's me. I'm the one not working. I'm the malfunctioning cog in the wheel. And you got to address that and make changes, or you're not going to survive in the world. You're gonna fail.
Failure was not an option. He finally had a sense of purpose. He wanted to be a doctor, but he was already in his 30s.
But you're too old to do that.
Absolutely not.
It wouldn't be easy. Knowing what you want to do doesn't always mean you'll get the chance.
It took me 7 years to get my life in order. It wasn't that it was there. But, you know, being like a man in a mission to get his life together and get everything going. I came out of the Army. I was still in debt. You know, I had mortgage. I couldn't just go to school. I had to find work. And I had to reset my life to zero. Standing tall amid the fields. Look, that tractor has huge wheels.
He also had a wife and 2 young kids. His dream of becoming a doctor seemed a million miles away until he applied at the University of Central Florida College of Medicine.
UCF has this great vision, and a statement I heard when I'm speaking was, we want to develop the best you. Yes. Meaning they weren't pushing me necessarily to be a physician research scientist or, you know, you must go into rural primary care. What is it you want to do? What is your dreams? Where do you want to go? What are your passions? What do you want to research? We got your back. This is where you want to go? Okay, go do it. And we're going to support you. And to me, that was everything I needed. At that statement, I remember an interview day, on that statement, that shut everything else down. I was like, this is it. This is where I want to go.
Today, you walk onto the pages of UCF history and become a part of a proud tradition of excellence.
This is where I want to be. This is the community I want to help, and this is how I want to serve.
And as for how he's surviving and thriving?
I would think almost my surviving is surviving who I was. I was going against myself. I was my biggest problem. And I was able to overcome myself and develop into becoming actually a good human being. And that's how I'm thriving. I'm continuing to put myself out there, get new experiences, meet new people, and show, you know, teach me. I guess I'm the empty cup. Fill my cup with your knowledge.
Finally today, a takeaway that we hope will inspire you to see change as something good.
Yeah, you never know for sure what tomorrow will bring or even if it will arrive at all. So why not focus on the now, on the positive, on pursuing your passions? That's what we hope we've motivated you to do today. And we'll see you back here again soon.
I'm Cecily Wilson for Growing Bolder. We've done dozens of interviews with active centenarians, men and women over the age of 100 who still have an amazing quality of life. One common trait shared by all is the ability to bounce back after change. Just think about it. The universal centenarian experience is one of continual change and, in truth, continual loss. The loss of friends, jobs, spouses, driver's license, sexuality, hearing, and more. Well, here's an old Chinese proverb. When the winds of change blow, some people build walls and some people build windmills. Which one are you? Building windmills, embracing the winds of change is what we call growing bolder.
For giving something totally new a try.
Yeah, but he was sorry.
No water?
No, I'm good.
I didn't love my reading.
I knew you didn't, which is why it threw me off when you were not that good.
More information about all of the stories you've seen here today is available at growingbolder.com/TV. And you can get inspired to keep rebranding aging when you connect with the Growing Bolder community on Facebook. Growing Bolder is available on DVD for $19.99 plus shipping and handling. A companion book, Growing Bolder, Rebranding Aging by Mark Middleton, is available as well for $29.99 plus shipping and handling. And you can subscribe to Growing Bolder magazine for $19.99. Order online at growingbolder.com/TV.